Hey guys, my name is Bianca, and my story might be different from what you usually hear. Since I was a child, my grandma and I had a very special relationship. I spent my weekends at her place, and wished I could stay there during the weekdays as well. She was full of life, and very enthusiastic about everything. She was really helpful whenever my parents needed anything. She brought us food, took care of me, got us groceries, and more. She even teased Mom to have another baby so she could sew more warm clothing for us. I always looked forward to spending time with my grandma. One summer break, after not seeing her for some time because of exams and other school activities, I was excited to finally visit her. I hit the road back home from school to go pack up my stuff, but this time something was up. My mom looked really worried, and it seemed Dad was telling her to calm down. "What's wrong, Mom?" I asked. "It's your grandma," Mom replied. "She has been ill, but it's getting worse, and we may have to keep her in a nursing home because, unfortunately, your dad and I aren't available to take care of her and give her the care she needs and deserves." Shortly after, they took Grandma to a nursing home. I was sad. It wasn't easy to watch. I didn't want to admit to myself that my grandma was getting old. It was only like 2 months ago when I saw her, and she was fine. Mom was silent, and her face went pale. I was shocked myself, but then my father hugged me and assured me that Grandma will be all right. I wanted to know what was wrong with her and to help her like she always helped us. I didn't want her to feel alone. All I could do in that moment was run to my room and pray for her. We went to see Grandma at the nursing home, and she didn't look happy at all. She was blue and somewhat quiet. For a moment, she didn't remember who Dad was. When she saw Dad, she muttered, "Jerry, is that you? Thank you for coming to see me, Jerry. I missed you." Jerry was my grandpa, Dad's dad. He died 2 years ago. Grandma's health was deteriorating, and that was scary to me. Things only got worse and worse with Grandma. The nursing home became too costly for my parents to handle, and she wasn't happy there. So, they decided to bring Grandma to stay with us and hire a nurse to check on her every now and then. I was excited that Grandma would be around more. At least she would be around people she loves and people who love her. I looked forward to her stories and funny sarcasm. I looked forward to sewing mufflers and scarves with her, but my excitement and expectations were short-lived. My grandma was really ill, and she needed a lot of help to do anything. She found it hard to walk, to use the restroom, and sometimes she would spill food all over herself when she ate. It was not an easy time. I did my best to help her with every little thing. I put her to bed sometimes, did all her laundry, and even read her a book whenever she felt really bored. I was very patient with Grandma, but my mom seemed to be losing hers. She snapped and said really nasty things whenever Grandma spilled water or complained about anything. One evening, Grandma was having dinner at the table just before she took her meds. Mom was waiting for her so she could clear the dishes. "Ma, would you hurry up a bit? It's getting late," Mom said. I think she was going to bed. Grandma tried to hurry, but she spilled her soup all over the table, the carpet, and herself. It got Mom so irritated that she blurted, "OMG, are you kidding me? Do you want me to feed you? I'm tired. We are all tired. We spend all our life savings on your health bills. When will this end? I wish we left you at the nursing home." I stood at the corner, cold. I felt terrible. I watched as my angry mom wiped the soup off Grandma and stormed out of the house. How could Mom speak to her like that? Why was she so mean? Grandma was helpless. I sat with Grandma, attempting to cheer her up. I told her everything would be okay. But deep inside, I was very upset with my mom. This was the first of many other mean things my mom did. My mom seemed irritated with Grandma's presence. She was spiteful in the way she treated her. And that's when I started to feel the same way about my mom. School session was about to resume, and I was afraid to leave Mom with Grandma, but I was forced to. I had put my stuff in the trunk of the car, ready to leave for school, when I heard Mom and Dad arguing loudly and angrily. I rushed upstairs and heard their argument. Mom wanted the nurse to go pick Grandma's medical supplies as they dropped me off, but Dad wasn't having it. He said it wasn't wise to leave her all alone, all by herself, no matter how long. As they argued, Grandma tried to get them to stop, but they ignored her. She did not look well. I went up to her to ask if she needed a glass of water. Nobody realized Grandma was struggling until she slumped. They immediately rushed her to the hospital, but they got there too late. We were told that she had a stroke. We lost Grandma that day, and I couldn't stop blaming my mom. She was the main reason Grandma died. If only she listened to Dad that day. If only she was more kind and understanding. After my grandma died, my relationship with my mother totally changed. I couldn't look at her anymore. I didn't want to do things for her, and I didn't want to spend time with her. She started to disgust me. I would spend most of my time at school and in my room. Thanksgiving came, and I didn't want to help Mom, so I avoided her most of it until it was time to serve guests. My mom knew things changed between us, and I could see how hard she was trying to get things back to normal. She made my bed, cooked my favorite meals, and offered to take me places I like. I wasn't going to fall for her shady attempts to fool me. I knew the kind of person she was, and no act could convince me otherwise. One day, I walked into the kitchen and saw her struggling with the blender. "Hey, Bee, would you turn that switch off for me?" she said. She was asking for my help, which she obviously didn't deserve. "Why don't you get a nurse to turn it off?" I said. Mom stared at me wide-eyed. "What did you say?" I turned the blender off and said, "If only you turned off your meanness, Grandma would still be alive." That moment, Mom slapped me hard. I didn't see it coming. I stood there and wished I could do the same. I wished I could give her a beating for how mean she was to Grandma. I wished I could scream at her just like she screamed at Grandma all the time she was helpless. I was about to leave the kitchen when my mother said, "Bianca, wait." I turned to look at her. She was crying. She said that she feels a lot of guilt and she's been trying to ignore that feeling since Grandma died, but she couldn't. She said that when she was my age, she grew up with a mother that treated her grandma with brutality, and she promised herself she'd never be like her mother. She forgot that promise, and it never really hit her how awful she was until Grandma died. I stood there thinking, Grandma didn't deserve what Mom did to her, but if I do the same, am I any different? I was slowly turning into my mom, becoming spiteful and losing patience. I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be a second version of her. I looked at Mom across the kitchen and smirked. I knew we had to have a conversation about everything, and at some point, I want to forgive her. I am sure my beautiful, loving grandma would have wanted that.